All right, let's dive into some awesome free resources for learning English.
Sounds good.
We know you're interested in improving your language skills,
Yeah,
and there's so much out there. It can be a little overwhelming,
for
right?
sure. Definitely. There's just a ton of stuff.
So think of this deep dive as your kind of like your personalized roadmap
Okay.
to navigating all those apps and websites and all the
Well, that makes
things.
sense. Yeah.
So first things first, let's talk about building a solid foundation.
Okay. Yeah. Foundations are important.
Just like you wouldn't start building a house with the roof, right?
Makes sense.
You need that strong base. So where do we find that in the language learning world?
Well, I think a lot of people turn to those platforms that kind of guide you through the fundamentals.
Okay.
The grammar, vocabulary, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like those comprehensive programs.
Yeah, exactly.
And one that's gotten super popular is Duolingo.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows Duolingo.
I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's really famous for its gamified
Well,
approach.
they make it fun.
But does that actually like translate to really learning?
Well, I think it's definitely engaging.
Okay.
Like those little bite-sized lessons, all the points, and you've got that owl cheering you on.
That little green owl.
It does tap into that, like, reward system in your brain, right?
Uh-huh.
So learning feels a lot less like a chore.
Makes sense.
And that can be really motivating for some people.
For sure.
But, while Duolingo is great for building that, like, basic vocabulary and kind of getting comfortable with the structure of the language,
Yeah.
it's not a magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
So, don't expect to become completely fluent just from using Duolingo.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So you're saying like have realistic expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't just like rely solely on that.
Yeah, you got to branch out.
Okay, so if Duolingo is like dipping your toes in the water, where do you go to like dive deeper?
Well, how about BBC Learning English?
Okay, yeah, BBC Learning English.
They're really cool, they use real-world content.
Right, so you're learning from like actual things.
Exactly, like
Yeah.
news articles and videos and stuff.
I think that's a really good approach.
And what's interesting about BBC Learning English is they actually focus a lot on authentic accents and pronunciation.
So you're not just getting that like perfect textbook
Yeah.
English.
Yeah, it's very diverse.
That's good.
Which is great because they have learners from all over the world.
Right.
It's good to be exposed to all those different
That's
accents.
for sure. For sure.
And, it's a refreshing change from that kind of idealized perfect English.
Yeah.
And they also have this really cool segment called The English We Speak,
Okay.
which focuses on idioms and slang, which can be really tricky.
They can be.
Yeah.
I remember when I was first learning English,
Yeah.
those idioms like kick the bucket
Oh, yeah.
or raining cats and dogs.
Yeah, those are classic.
I was so confused.
I can imagine.
I had no idea what people were talking about.
Right, but they're so important for understanding the cultural context,
Absolutely.
And BBC Learning English does a great job of, explaining where they come from.
Okay, so we've got Duolingo for a fun intro,
Hmm.
BBC Learning English for a dose of the real world.
Yeah.
What about if you want something a bit more academic?
Oh, well, in that case, you've got FutureLearn.
Okay, yeah, Future Learn.
They actually offer free access to, believe it or not, university-level courses.
Wow, so it's like a taste of like higher education.
Exactly, yeah. Now, you're not going to get a degree or anything,
Right.
but you can audit the courses, and it gives you a feel for that academic rigor
I see.
and the depth,
Yeah.
So if you're looking for something a little more challenging,
Okay.
FutureLearn is great.
And they have a pretty wide variety of courses, right?
You do.
I've seen everything from literature to science,
Yeah, you can really expand your knowledge base there.
and all while you're like practicing your English.
Ex-
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got these great platforms to build that foundation.
Yeah, they're great starting points.
But what about those times when you're like on the go
Oh, right.
and you just want to squeeze in a little bit of learning?
You need something mobile for that.
Yeah, that's where mobile apps come in.
Exactly.
Perfect for, those busy learners who are always on the move.
Absolutely, yeah. Like when you're commuting or waiting in line,
Uh-huh.
you can just pull out your phone and learn.
And there are so many apps out there now. It's crazy.
It's kind of overwhelming.
So what are some of the ones that you think are really doing something innovative?
Well, one that comes to mind is Busuu.
Okay, Busu.
They have a good blend of structured learning
Okay.
and then those interactive exercises.
I like that combination.
Yeah, and they have this cool feature
Okay.
called community corrections.
Community corrections.
Yeah, so it's like, imagine you're practicing your writing
Okay.
and you submit like a piece of text, right?
Hmm.
And then other learners who are native English speakers can actually give you feedback.
Oh, wow.
and correct your mistakes.
So it's like having like a global network of language partners.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's really
It's
cool.
a really cool concept.
Is it just for writing, or do they have other features too?
No, they have a lot of stuff like vocabulary building exercises,
Okay.
grammar lessons, even AI-powered feedback on your pronunciation.
Oh, wow. It's pretty comprehensive.
It is.
And it's free.
Well, the free tier gives you a good taste,
Okay.
but if you really want to unlock everything they have to offer,
You can upgrade.
you can upgrade it.
So you can kind of try it out and see if you like it.
Exactly.
Okay, so Busuu sounds pretty comprehensive.
It is, yeah.
What about for those who really want to focus on like specific skills,
Okay, yeah.
like vocabulary, for example?
Oh, vocabulary. Well, when it comes to vocabulary, you got to try Memrise.
Memrise, I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's known for using mnemonics and spaced repetition. You got it.
But can you kind of remind me how those work?
Sure, so spaced repetition is like, it's basically flashcards, right?
Okay, yeah.
But instead of going through them in order, the app actually tracks your progress
Okay.
and shows you the words that you struggle with more often.
That's smart.
Right.
It's like it learns with you.
It does.
That's really cool.
And then the mnemonics, those are those little memory tricks
Right, right.
that help you remember the words.
That's cool. And I think Memrise uses like visuals and humor too,
They do.
which I think is a good way to make it more engaging.
For sure. And they have these cool video clips with native speakers.
And I've heard they have a feature where you can learn phrases from like locals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learn with locals.
That's really good.
So you can pick up phrases that are actually used in real life situations.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they even break down those little cultural nuances.
Okay, so Memrise is great for vocab.
What about for those who are ready to actually start, like, speaking, having conversations?
For the brave ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say HelloTalk is the go-to for that.
Okay, Hello Talk.
That's the one that connects you with native speakers for language exchange.
Right, so you can find someone who's learning your language.
Yeah,
And you can kind of help each other out.
exactly.
That sounds amazing, but also kind of intimidating, I have to say.
Oh, I know it can be scary, especially if you're shy or,
Yeah.
you're not so confident in your speaking skills yet.
Yeah,
But that's where the magic happens, right?
right.
You got to push yourself outside your comfort zone.
I guess you do.
Embrace those opportunities for growth.
Because sometimes, like, making mistakes is the best way to learn.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and HelloTalk provides a really safe space to practice.
Okay.
You can build your confidence.
So we've got all these great platforms and apps.
Yeah, there are so many.
It can be overwhelming, honestly.
It can.
So for someone who's like, okay, this is great, but where do I even start?
Right.
What advice would you give?
Well, I think the most important thing is to just have a strategy.
Okay, so have a plan.
Yeah, and figure out what your goals are. Like, what do you want to achieve?
Right.
Do you want to travel? Get a job?
Be able to watch movies without subtitles.
Exactly.
All good goals.
Once you have that clear goal, you can figure out the best way to get there.
So it's like having a destination in mind when you're going on a trip.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
you can pick the right resources, right?
So how do you choose the right resources?
Well, think about your learning style.
Okay.
Do you like structure? Do you prefer a more immersive experience?
Yeah, I see. So it's kind of like knowing yourself as a learner.
Exactly.
All right, well, I think that's some really good food for thought.
Yeah,
We've got a lot more to cover, so we'll be right back after a quick break.
sounds good.
Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into those fantastic free resources for learning English.
Yep. And now we're going to zoom in a bit
Okay.
on those tools that are like really focused.
Okay, so like laser beams,
Yes.
targeting specific areas you want to work on. I
Exactly.
love that analogy.
It's all about fine tuning.
Right.
Like those specific skills.
Yeah.
That can be tricky sometimes.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally. So, let's start with writing, because I know
Ooh, writing.
that can be a real confidence booster.
Yeah.
But also,
A challenge.
yeah, when you're first starting out, especially writing in a new language,
Right.
it can feel a bit intimidating.
Always like, oh, are my mistakes going to be obvious?
Yeah, exactly.
But luckily, there are some tools out there to help.
Okay, tell me about these tools.
All right, so one that's become really popular is Grammarly.
Oh, Grammarly.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of it.
I have, yeah.
It's like having a personal editor, right?
Right. Available 24/7.
And the free version is awesome, catches all those typos.
Those pesky typos.
Yeah, and grammar errors.
Yeah.
Even for native speakers, those things can slip through.
Totally.
But here's the cool thing. Grammarly goes beyond just basic corrections.
Okay.
It gives you suggestions, for improving clarity,
Oh, wow.
conciseness, even tone.
Wait, tone.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, like, is the grammar correct? It's also about
How it sounds.
how does this sound to a native speaker?
Exactly. Like, is it too formal, too casual?
Oh, interesting.
Is it passive?
So it's almost like having a writing coach.
Yes. Right in your pocket.
Okay. That is super helpful.
Especially for emails, essays, even social media posts, all of those things.
Yeah,
So Grammarly is great for that.
definitely.
What about something for those who really want to, like, master the building blocks, the grammar and vocabulary?
Ah, the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Well, for that, Anki is really effective.
Funky.
Yeah. Have you heard of it? I've heard the name, but I don't really know what it is.
Okay, so it's a flashcard app,
Okay, flashcards.
but not your typical stack of cards.
Right.
It uses something called spaced repetition.
Spaced repetition.
It's really cool.
Remind me how that works.
So imagine you have those flashcards, right?
Uh-huh.
English words on one side, definitions on the other.
Classic.
Exactly. But with traditional flashcards, you just go through them, like, in order.
Whether you remember it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with spaced repetition, the app actually tracks which words you're struggling with
Oh, that's smart.
and shows them to you more frequently.
So it's tailoring it to you.
It is. It's like a personalized learning system.
That's awesome.
It is. And you can use it for anything, grammar rules,
Oh,
irregular verbs, phrasal verbs, idioms, anything you want.
wow, that's really cool.
It is.
So I'm cocky for that. And you know what's always been a challenge for me personally?
What's that?
Pronunciation.
Yeah.
It can be tricky, it's especially
Sounds?
yeah, those sounds that don't exist in your native language.
Totally.
But I'm guessing there are tools for this too.
Oh, there are.
What would you recommend?
Well, one that I find really helpful is Youglish.
Youglish.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's a website that lets you hear how words are pronounced in real-life contexts.
Real life.
Yeah.
So not just like a robotic voice, but like
No.
actual people speaking.
Actual people.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So you type in the word, right?
Uh-huh.
And it searches YouTube for videos of native speakers saying that word.
Oh, wow.
And then you can hear it in all these different accents at different speeds, different situations.
So it's like a massive database of pronunciation examples.
It is.
That's amazing.
It is.
Okay, so Youglish for pronunciation. We've covered
Yeah.
writing, grammar, vocab, pronunciation.
Hitting all the points.
What else?
Okay, so let's broaden things out a bit. Remember those MOOCs we mentioned earlier?
MOOCs, the massive open online courses.
Those are the ones.
Yeah, like the online courses offered by universities.
Exactly.
Are they actually free, though?
Well, a lot of them offer an audit option,
Okay.
so you can access the course content for free.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, you might not get a certificate or all the fancy features,
Right.
but you get the knowledge.
So it's like getting a taste of like university-level learning
It is.
without having to, pay tuition.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And there's a huge variety, right?
Oh, tons.
Like I've seen courses on everything.
Literature, history, science, you name it.
Taught by like real professors.
Yep. From top universities around the world.
That's incredible. So where do people find these MOOCs?
Good question.
Yeah.
So platforms like Coursera, ADX,
Okay.
FutureLearn, those are all great places to start.
Awesome. It's amazing that you can access this stuff for free.
I know, right?
That's, education for everyone.
It really is. And on top of that, you've got interactive communities
Okay, yeah.
and language exchange platforms.
Which I think is a really important element because connecting with other learners,
Yes,
it can be so motivating.
it is.
Wait.
It's like having that support system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like what kind of platform?
So Reddit's a good one, specifically the subreddit English Learning.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Tons of learners from all over the world
Okay.
sharing tips, resources, encouragement.
Nice.
It's a great place to ask questions.
Okay, so Reddit for that, and then for those who want to really take it up a notch
Okay.
and actually practice conversation, there's Tandem, right?
Tandem, yeah.
That one connects you with native speakers.
It does for language exchange.
So you find someone who's learning your language.
Yeah,
You help each other out.
exactly.
It's like having a language buddy.
It is.
And speaking of buddies, let's talk about those extra resources.
Okay, like what?
The things that can make learning more fun.
Okay, yeah.
I'm thinking podcasts and YouTube channels.
Oh, yes.
There's so much good stuff out there.
There is so much authentic content.
So for podcasts, what are your go-tos?
Okay, so for beginners, I love Voice of America, Learning English.
Okay.
They use super clear language and they cover current events.
So you're learning about what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
and improving your English.
Exactly.
Nice.
And then for something more conversational, I like All Ears English.
Okay.
They focus on American English, and they talk about communication, culture,
Okay.
even careers.
Cool. And YouTube.
So many good ones. For grammar, Learn English with Papa Teach Me is amazing.
Okay.
He's really good at breaking down complex grammar concepts.
Makes it simple.
Yeah, and he uses humor too, so it's fun.
That's important.
And for pronunciation, I recommend Rachel's English.
Okay.
She's great.
All right, so we've got podcasts, YouTube, specialized tools, MOOCs, online communities.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But it's all good stuff.
So how do we make sense of it all?
Right.
Why do we even begin?
Well, that brings us to strategy,
Strategy. Right.
which is what we're going to talk about in the final part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, everyone. We'll be right back to help you create a personalized plan for English success. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into free English learning resources.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
Platforms, apps, tools, all kinds of stuff.
Right, but now it's time to bring it all together
Yeah, exactly.
and talk strategy.
Strategy is key.
Because it's one thing to have all these resources, but it's another to actually use them effectively.
It's like having, all the ingredients,
Right.
but no recipe.
I love that analogy.
Mm.
So how do we create that recipe for English fluency?
Well, I think the first thing is to, really define what fluency means for you.
Okay, yeah. Fluency, it's such a kind of a broad term, isn't it?
It is.
It means different things to different people.
Right. Like for some people, it might be, being able to have everyday conversations.
Okay.
For others, it might be like reading novels or giving presentations.
Yeah, so it's really about figuring out what you want to be able to do with the language.
Exactly.
What's your goal?
Yeah, what does success look like for you?
Right.
Once you have that clear vision, then you can kind of reverse engineer the steps to get there.
Okay, so let's say my goal is I want to be able to have more natural conversations in English.
Okay,
With
100%.
more confident, just more fluent when I'm speaking.
That's a great goal.
How would I use these resources to create a strategy for that?
Okay, so let's break it down.
Right.
First, I would say spend some time on, maybe Duolingo or BBC Learning English.
Okay, yeah, those foundational platforms.
Right, just to brush up on your grammar, basic vocabulary.
So that's like the appetizer, if you will.
Exactly. You got to start with a good base.
Build that solid base.
Yeah, and then you can spice things up with Memrise. Expand your vocabulary. Learn some everyday phrases.
So we're layering those tools.
Exactly. Adding flavor and personality to your language.
I like it.
And then, because your goal is conversations, you're going to need to actually practice speaking, right?
Right. Can't get around that.
No, you
Okay.
can't. So this is where something like HelloTalk would be really helpful.
Okay, yeah, that language exchange platform.
Yeah, connecting with native speakers.
So that's like the main course, the interactive part.
Exactly. You're putting those skills into practice.
Love it. All right, so we've got our appetizer, our main course.
Don't forget dessert,
Oh, right, dessert. What's dessert in this analogy?
podcasts, and YouTube channels.
Oh, yeah.
Just for fun.
Right, to keep things interesting.
Keep you engaged, and they're full of authentic English content.
Okay, so we've got those for fun. We've got the structured learning. And then what about those specialized tools like Grammarly, Youglish, Anki?
Oh, yeah, those are great for fine-tuning.
Right.
Grammarly for your writing, Youglish for pronunciation, Anki for memorizing those tricky words and grammar rules.
So it's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And using them strategically to achieve those goals that you set.
Right. So it's not just about using every single resource. It's about being strategic and thoughtful about it.
Exactly. You have to have a plan.
And I think, with so many options, it can be easy to get overwhelmed.
It can. It can.
So how do you stay organized?
Organization is key.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of creating a schedule.
Okay, like a learning schedule.
Yeah, just a simple plan.
Like weekly or monthly or something.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Doesn't have to be anything fancy.
No, but it's good to kind of outline what you're going to do each day.
So you stay on track.
Exactly. Which resources you're going to use for how long.
Okay.
Helps you avoid that, what do I study today feeling.
That's good. And I imagine, this plan can evolve too, right?
Whoa, absolutely. It should evolve.
As you learn and you figure out what
Yeah.
works for you.
If something's not working, switch it up.
Yeah, be flexible.
Be flexible.
That's good advice.
The key is to find a rhythm that you can sustain,
Right.
that you enjoy.
Enjoy. That's important.
It is.
And I think it's important to remember that, learning a language, It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's so true.
There are going to be days where you're super motivated
Yeah,
and days where you're not.
totally.
The key is to just be patient
Be patient with yourself.
and celebrate the progress that you make.
Celebrate those victories.
And remember, the most important ingredient in all of this
You.
is you,
You got it.
your dedication, your curiosity.
Your willingness to learn.
That's what's going to make the difference.
That's what matters.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I just want to say, you have all these amazing resources
At your fingertips.
free,
Mm.
and you can use them to create your own path to English fluency.
It's really exciting.
So what are you waiting for? Choose a resource, set a goal, and get started.
Dive in.
Happy learning, everyone.